several different groups on Facebook. And then at the top of the hour, which is 2 minutes from now, we will proceed.
Good deal.
2.5
I'll be
minutes.
here.
Let me go find my Facebooks. Where's my Facebook? There we go. Come on, Facebook. You can do it. Well, maybe you can't do it. There we go. Okay. Let's go find. Oh, no wonder. Okay, let's switch that. This is the part of the show where I talk to myself, trying to persuade myself. Okay, yeah, we are streaming. That's nice. Good. We'll like and share that. And there we go. And then we'll share it to a group. How about the Broadcasting Club? And we'll put, see if we can find Clay Walker.
Yeah, I've got I have a fan page from my fake radio days.
I can find it under Clay Steimling just fine.
Yeah, and then I could share it to the personal thing too. It's all good.
So if you're friends with me on Facebook, it should be at the top of my page right now. And in just a moment, it'll be on the TWiRT page. Let's see if we can do. How do you think I grow my fan club? Let's see. Almost done here. Just gotta. Here we go. Like and share. And share now. Okay. Now that works better. I have to remember to do that next time. Okay, we've been live for 2 minutes. We've got about 15 seconds before the top of the hour, if anybody cares. We don't have to start at the top of the hour. Nobody's timing into us.
I'm listening now to the Barker channel to make sure we hit top of the hour news.
The TWiRT Barker channel.
That's right.
That's what we need.
It's you on a loop. At the tone. 2 minutes to airtime.
I gotta see who I know I sent you guys an email with the sponsors. So let's see if I can get that straight. Okay, air. Oh, give me a second here. We're going to start a couple seconds late because I got to find something. Here we go. Air music scheduler. Ad copy. I've been doing too much.
If you need to do the read for Laughing Clown Malt Liquor, I'll happily take that one.
Laughing Clown Malt Liquor. Do you have any favorite Angry Audio products?
No, actually, I don't think I do. I mean, I do like the headphone gizmo. We use those a lot. That's our standard blade of choice.
Okay. Well, we can, if Chris isn't here to talk about mic processing, Suncast, then we'll do a headphone gizmo ad for Angry Audio. Clay, do you have a favorite Max Connect product?
Ooh, I like the new multi-tuner. Have you seen this one?
Well, good. Yes, we'll talk about that. Let me go find the page for that. And where is the You got it. Yeah, good. Okay. Well, Clay can lead, and I'll go. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a good way to talk about making your racks. We want to talk about racks getting smaller and not having to. Well, wait. You know what I mean? TOC racks getting smaller.
That can go sideways real fast.
Right.
Okay.
That's the sausage being made portion of TWiRT for those tuning in early.
What time did Kirk lose control of the program?
Wasn't even on the air yet. There you go.
Wasn't even on the air yet. All right, Suncast, we're ready to go. A little bit late, and here we go. Clay, we have a hard out about 10 after the next hour.
Okay.
All right. And if we can finish up sooner than that, that's great, but I never do. Just have too much to say. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you now, instead of during the last commercial break, Clay, I'm going to need a tip of the week. So at least keep a little bit of powder dry for that.
Got it. You got
Okay.
it. You got it.
All right. Here we thanks, Suncasts. Once again, save the day. uh Suncast is worth every penny that he pays me for the pleasure of doing this show. All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb that actually really did come off the top of a tower in Lula, Georgia. Hi, I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to have a fun show today because we're talking about something that's fresh on my mind and fresh on my guests' mind as well. First of all, I'm Kirk. You probably know me pretty well by now. I'm riding high today because I just got word last night that you nice people in the SBE, you SBE members, voted me in for another term as a board of directors member. And that's just really nice. Thank you very much. There were, I don't know, 8 or 9 people running. There were 6 board seats available. And I don't know if I came in, last out of the 6, but I came in somewhere before number 7. So thank you very much for your votes and your confidence. I've already talked to Kevin Trueblood and to Mike Downs, the executive director at SBE. So thank you very much for your vote and your support. I had to sit on my hands for at least one term. I think I sat out for 2 terms because I had timed out with a full slate of winning after winning on the board. So anyway, thanks for your confidence. Enough of that. I'm in the Telos Alliance studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a beautiful hot summer day. What's the temperature out there? Oh my gosh, it's 91 degrees, but it's a crispy cool 75 here in the Telos Alliance studio. All right, that's enough about me. Let's meet our guest. He's a repeat. He was on the show last week. And somehow it wasn't painful enough, and I conned him into being on this week. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Clay Walker. Hey, Clay, good to have you on.
Hey, how's it going, Kirk? Good to see you again. And this time we're not in 105-degree weather in Austin, Texas. I also appreciate the air-conditioned coolness of home studios. It's a good day for sure.
We should have a day of reverence for Mr. Carrier, who invented air conditioning.
My God. Well, we've had rain for the last 2.5 weeks in North Carolina, where I'm based, and literally 3 hours ago, the humidity came back, and so did the sunshine. So,
did you have a gentle summer rain, or did you have angry thunderstorms?
Oh, it was angry thunderstorms, and I got 2 little kids that wanted to make sure that they were close to mom and dad in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Last night, here where I have lived now for 19 years, in Nashville, Tennessee, just off of Granny White Pike. When we first moved here, Clay, the power was extremely unreliable. It seems like every time an errant pickup truck hit a tree somewhere, the power would go off. And sometimes we've had the power off for 3 days here. My goodness. But it's lately, then it got good for a while. They replaced a bunch of broken down telephone poles with some steel ones or some brand new trees. And but just lately, we've had some power outages. And last night, I forget why, but I was up at 2:00 this morning in my office, and the power went out like 7 times in 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, it's like, what is going on here?
And it's really good for having computer equipment in your studio and
Exactly.
audio over IP equipment in the studio. And which I think was a really good segue into the things we want to talk about today and why bringing things virtualized and moving things into the cloud is such a good idea to avoid things like that you're discussing and maybe manage uptime.
We ought to give you a proper introduction, and your title was on the lower third bar there. Let's put that back up for Clay. And Clay, tell us about what your passion is in terms of your career and what you're doing, and then that'll lead us into teasing the bulk of our show.
Sure. I serve at Odyssey as the Vice President of Content Operations. I am a recovered program director and on-air talent. I've got about 25 years of time on the air and in various forms and fashions. I started when I was in high school. And was very, very fortunate to run the God Squad at 15 years old and worked into a career of, hey, I want to be on the air and I want to entertain people. Then I really fell in love with technology to make the radio happen the way it does, and I'm naturally curious. And about 3.5, 4 years ago, Odyssey presented a really unique opportunity to say, hey, why don't you take this tech that you love and this programming that you love, and let's make this role of content operations So really what my role is, from microphone to the output of the processor at the transmitter site, and all the little parts and parcels kind of all comes together in one big orchestrated thing. I get to serve both program directors and talent, which I love. I love Odyssey's program directors and the talent that make it that make the radio content so great. But I also get to serve our engineering teams, the ones that are on the front lines implementing, and I get to capture feedback of, hey, that may not be a great idea, and here's why. Um, so yeah, it's a really cool, very unique, hard to pin down with one easy elevator speech. Um, but definitely a really cool opportunity at Odyssey, no doubt.
It sounds like you're the programming guy that engineers wish they had, and you're the engineering cousin that disc jockeys and programmers and general managers wish they had. I can never talk to the engineer. He speaks a different language. Clay, you talk.
That's a really good way to put it. You've had a dear colleague, Chuck Bullitt, on not long ago, and I love and admire Chuck, and have been very fortunate to spend time with him at KCBS at the transmitter site, and hear why things have to be triple redundant for San Francisco, and Damon in Los Angeles, and Tom Finnegan in Chicago. To hear that feedback is really cool, because then you could go back to the program director that says, my station just isn't loud enough and I've got to have more processing. And you go, well, but really don't. And here's why. Or really, again, be the program director whisperer back to kind of keep everybody on the same page together. That's a really cool way of putting it out, for
Good.
sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a pretty amazing show planned, because Clay and I got to co-present a presentation last week at the Texas Association of Broadcasters. And Clay's a busy guy. Sometimes I'm a busy guy. And shame on Kirk. What do you think? Do you think Kirk talked too long and didn't leave Clay enough time? Yeah, that's probably what happened. Clay did a masterful job of taking the time that he had left in the hour and presenting his use cases for mixing audio in the cloud or on premises, but doing it virtually. And Clay's going to have a proper amount of time on this show to really talk about this idea in depth, to see where it's applicable, where it's not, where Clay and Odyssey are using it, and where they're not, or not yet, or will when it makes sense. So that's coming up. Right now, though, I want to tell you about our wonderful sponsor, and that is Air, AIIR.com, air.com. They've got a deal for you right now, and it has to do with music scheduling. And as soon as I can find my notes here, where'd my notes go? They're offering something. It's called Scheduler, of course. And Scheduler is from air.com. It's their online music scheduling program. So if you're tired of wrestling with clunky music scheduling software that's installed on your computer, well, meet Air's music scheduler. It's powerful scheduling. It's literally simplified, and it operates right in your browser. And that means you can do it from any browser, anyone that you're authorized to get into the online scheduling. So with drag and drop clocks, reusable templates, you can build a day's playlist or an entire month in literally moments. You can import your existing library, or you can start fresh if you want to, and then assign categories, commands, and audio tempo and things like that with lightning speed. Now, the cloud-based platform frees you to schedule from literally anywhere, as I mentioned, anytime. Again, there's no installation involved. You've already got the software it takes on every device you own. It's a browser. No installs, no headaches, and fully customizable rules for things like artist separation and tempo flow and title thresholds and more. You're always going to hit your station's unique sound because you set the rules. You can see issues with your finished log highlighted in real time. You can get instant fix suggestions. Yep, I like that. Yeah, I like that. No, don't play two Carly Simons in a row. That kind of thing. And you can export logs effortlessly into Playout 1, of course, into Wide Orbit, into Myriad, Play It Live, Station Playlist, and that list is growing. So try Air Music Scheduler free through September of 2025. And after that, after September, it's $60 a month per station. So are you ready to simplify your scheduling? Well, visit air.com, AIIR.com, air.com/scheduler, or hey, just go to air.com and click on the scheduler button, and you can sign up today. Sign up to give it a try. Give it for the rest of August. Hey, you got almost 7 weeks to try it out at no charge whatsoever. So please check it out from air.com. Thanks a lot, Air, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack in the Telos Alliance studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. Clay Walker is my guest. And Clay, Chris is here too. Hey, Chris says you might have a connection problem. Let's bring Chris in and see if is he actually there. Hey, Chris.
I'm actually here. Can you
Good
hear
deal.
me?
We can. I don't know about you, but I got a lot to learn from Clay. Clay meet Chris. Chris meet Clay. Hi.
I know Chris, right? Chris, former Audacian, Intercom OG, and I remember working on a couple of projects.
Yes.
That's right. Deep in the depths of Wisconsin, man. How you been?
Good. How you been?
Doing good. Doing real good. And glad to know that we don't have snow in Wisconsin yet. I guess that's next week in the forecast.
Yeah. We've had plenty of flooding, so thank goodness it's not winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Well, Clay, as you know, we've got 8 slides, your 8 slides from our presentation, and we're ready to show any of those when you want to. I did put them in your slide
first, because the whole premise is, cloud-based audio consoles, cloud-based audio processing. And, Chris, I think it's great that you just joined, because when you were with us, you were kind of at the front end of this before I was in my role, because it really did start with a standard. In 2018, shout out to my colleague, John Kennedy and Paul Donovan and those guys, they settled on the LiveWire standard. They said, hey, we're going to pick a audio over IP protocol. We're going to focus on that, and we're going to build off of that standard. So disparate systems all over the place, with mergers and acquisitions of radio stations, and brought into to Intercom at the time, CBS Radio, and then eventually during COVID into Odyssey. We had to find a way to start wrangling all the CADs together with a variety of systems. That picture there the first one showed pictures from the last couple of years of me on the road. You've got this really awesome PRE console from Hartford. You've got, unfortunately, another Hartford old Wheatstone thing, some stuff from Pittsburgh, and an SAS. None of these talk really well together, and we're all kind of trying to figure out how to get them, to play well with one another, also while they're very much aging. Here's the other problem that comes along with not having a standard. We have support issues, right? Those consoles are great if you have somebody in that market that is an expert and can whisper BMX and can whisper Wheatstone and knows the intricacies of the SAS platform. But we're a scaled audio company. We have central teams that help support our stations and help support our teams. If they can't get in and help make a route change, if you're off the air on a Saturday night, you're called in and you're coming back to turn a fader back up on a console. That's where we really decided, hey, for a better quality of life for our engineering team and our programming teams, let's build on a platform that all of us could talk together on, and let's start one element at a time. It really began with 2 items: wide orbit automation for radio and our phone systems. Really, the first part, and as Chris, I think you were still kicking around when we started plugging wide orbit everywhere, we made a decision to say no more physical sound cards, period. Wide orbit is going to be completely audio over IP. So if you're in a situation or in a market where you're still on Wheatstone analog, or you're still on a PRE something from 1980, we'll give you a node. We'll build you a baby LiveWire network. But now this gives us an opportunity for our central automation support team to help you do satellite routing in off-air emergencies, to move things in and out without having a physical hardcore sound card. Then we did the same thing, adding, again, shout out to Robbie Green, who really at the time when he was working at Odyssey saw this vision and really got it moving with John Kennedy and my other colleagues at the company to say, hey, the tariffs on copper line is going ridiculously high for telephone lines. So why don't we settle on a standard for telco? So we did, built on the LiveWire platform, and said VX phone system is where it's at. We're going to do SIP trunking into our markets and have redundant PBXs, and watch our phone bill come way down. And it did. It offset the initial investment of the telco system. So having those two live wire systems, Kirk, really helped us go, oh, what other building blocks can we do? And I don't think at the time we were thinking virtualization, but once you start looking at it holistically, you go, oh, wait a minute. These are devices that kind of run on Linux, and Linux could be orchestrated in containers. And wow, wouldn't that be neat if the VX system was virtual? Or what happens if my automation lived in the cloud? Those are the interesting things that having a standard really helped us start making those, having those conversations about.
I remember meeting Chris in Milwaukee years ago and showing Livewire to him and how his light turned on in his head and he got it right away. And Chris, I don't know, Chris, if you had any kind of virtualization on your mind at that point, or just simplifying the wiring between studios.
Yeah, I think it was simplifying the wiring we had, and it's funny because I went to Hartford to help install the wide orbit system there. I remember those consoles. We had old Wheatstone consoles, and we were looking to build new studios, and there's just no way that we were going to move those old consoles over, especially with all the wiring. I have a picture floating around somewhere of my assistant and I at the time, literally knee deep in my office in wiring that we had pulled out from under the floors into the studios. And there's a lot of the same goal there, which was the ability to quickly route audio wherever we needed it to go. And back before we did that project, everything was patch panels, or I even had to use broadcast tool switchers, which failed and are noisy and awful sounding. So yeah, I mean, it really kind of came down to we were one of the early adopters of Axia in the group, and then we put it in Madison. And one of the benefits of that is we were able to connect Milwaukee and Madison together. There was one standard, and we were one of the smaller intercom Odyssey markets, so it was really pretty much me running both markets. So to be able to, sit at my desk either at home or in the office and take care of those issues, especially we had a sports talk station, so there's a lot of complications that go on there and a lot of different configurations that the guys on the air, just sports talk guys, they didn't know what to do with it. So that allowed us to do some pretty complicated things. We early on did we did a regional sports talk show that was syndicated, and we used the Barracks Reflector service. We were able to use with Wide Orbit and the what was the name of that software, Kirk? The that handles all of the macros and things for Wide Orbit.
Pathfinder.
Or for Pathfinder. Yeah.
Pathfinder.
So
Okay.
we would use, so we set up, it's been a while, 5 years. With Pathfinder, we set it up so that when the local announcer hit a break for Wide Orbit, it actually triggered a chain of events to send alternate audio down the barracks boxes to the affiliates, and all those sorts of things. So early on, we did have automation on our mind strictly for that, but after that, the rest of it just kind of came once we got used to it.
And Chris, you actually bring up a really good point about WSSP and the sports guys, right? This is what you just named. At the front of this is kind of the mission statement of my department. And it really comes down to the fact that content creation has to be frictionless. It has to be like Amazon, because more and more of our content creators are coming from the social world. They're coming from having one tap on their phone and they're on to 100,000 followers. But we, for whatever reason, and again, it's just the way radio has done things, and we've moved on and on and on, and we still have complex systems. And we say, okay, we want you to walk on a high wire, and we want you to be awesome on the air. But at the same time, I want you to fly this airplane that's really complicated. So my mission is the studios have to be a frictionless environment.
I don't want to interrupt, but that's a drum I've been beating for years. I remember when I did the Radio Milwaukee studios downtown, a big project there. I always said, and that was, I don't know, 2015 maybe. My mission statement through that whole project was the job of the engineer is to make the lives of the talent easier, to basically make the technology invisible. And, you mentioned WSSP, which was a big one because there was a lot of technology going on there between satellite and syndicated programming that we were originating. But also, even things like we started to automate things like Vox Pro, where when they hit record, it turned on the on air light outside so that people weren't walking in while they were recording. But now with my stations here, it was the same thing. I walked into a situation where each building was had wired studios with old equipment. I've converted them now to all Axia, and that scales really well for us. Being, we're 20 some stations, small market stations. We've got it. We were able to learn how to script and change the Simian software that we're using to be able to change routes on nodes. And that's huge because, for example, when we're doing high school sports, we don't have to have a board operator there because they can log in and we have it all macroed out uh, on Simian, where they log in when the time comes. Simian flips open their through the Axia node, creates a mix of Simian and them, and all of these things that are automated for a small market station. We save a board op cost, which is huge. So those are sort of the things that I know when when Odyssey kind of came to be. I know John, that was his big thing organization wise, because we were this intercom was the same way, where every market was an island, and there came to a point where we were running, we were running Maestro. There are other places running Audio Vault, all these different things, and so to get together and create a standard, makes everybody's
the
job
great
easier.
automation. I mean, that's it. Every market was different. We were Scott Studios here in Greensboro, and then New Orleans was running Next Gen, I think, at one point. And so by having that standard, Chris is right. We were able to, I think about one of the projects you and I worked on was Radio Disney at the time. We had a national Radio Disney, scale it out and automation in every place, and we were able to do that because we were talking the same language. So we've been adding layer on layer to just keep talking the same language.
A quick talk about that. I remember when we rolled out Radio Disney, and it was interesting because it was kind of a last minute deal, and a lot of us didn't have automation systems capable of doing that yet. And I remember getting a call from John Kennedy saying, "Hey, we're going to do this. We need to have some way to insert legal IDs and public affairs programming." So the first revision was this little box that I had found with an SD card that you could record the stuff on, and it took triggers. And so, top of every hour, we just had a trigger that rolled it right over the programming. And eventually they went, "Oh yeah, we probably need to get wide orbits in for all these stations running Disney." So I remember that very well, and that's a great example of that was kind of the start of all of this.
And it was, again, being very creative and finding new ways to pull this stuff off and ask the right question. So that's really it. Like, you build the standard, and now we can apply a mission statement to it. Studios aren't station centric anymore. Kirk, I think you're coming up on a break. I can see it in your eye.
I am, but actually, you guys are heading in a great direction here, because on the one hand, Clay, your first slide showed all these different consoles, different markets, and isn't that the way that we used to do it? I was on the front end of selling Axia systems into radio stations, and I'd go into this to different stations of the same company in different markets, and they'd all have different equipment. There was no standard because Clay, related, you said what we want is content creation that's frictionless, and it used to be that frictionless content creation means that you bought the audio console that made the talent, the most important talent, whoever that was, happiest, or did the job. But if you had a talent that says, "I have got to have an SAS console just exactly like Rick Dees has," okay, well, we'll get you one of those. And so there were things that went into frictionless content creation, but that equation has changed now. And in fact, after the break here, Clay, we're going to get into your position that studios and the equipment selection and how that works is now more driven by what's the format. Is it people talking around a desk? Is it sports? Is it straight ahead news talk? Is it a music with a one live morning show? What's the format? That's going to determine how we're going to build a studio. You don't need a full news desk and sports talk facility to play mostly automated songs. And so I think we all get that, but you've kind of pinpointed this. And so when we come back, that's one thing that we're going to focus on. Hey, our show is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics and the Virtual Rack. And Virtual Rack is one of the several ways to implement the kind of technology that Chris and Clay and myself are talking about as we move through today's show. You can put your entire air chain, if you want, in one place, and that is in a special server. Actually, the server is pretty ordinary. It's the software that goes on it. In fact, if your radio station is in some far-flung country, then the folks at Broadcast Bionics will encourage you to get your own server, and they will install their software on it. What is their software? Well, these containerized programs are actually a little bit complicated to install and to manage, and to make sure all the right logical hookups are done inside the server. You've got you have LANs inside that are virtual that have to be right, and you got to get your IP addressing correct and your subnets exactly right. Well, one way to do that is to buy Virtual Rack from Broadcast Bionics. And when you do that, you get a box, you turn it on, you browse into it, and you see that stuff on the screen right there? You get like an app store of different apps that you can install. You click on the manufacturer, whether it's Ferncast, Sound4, Telos, or 2WCOM. And from there, you pick the app that you want. Oh, I want 2 audio processors, and I want 2 mixers, and I want some codecs from 2WCOM, or I want some mic processing from Sound4. There's lots of things that you can choose from. You click a button to install. Within a minute or two, the software is installed. You give it IP addresses, a couple of parameters, and you're ready to go. Well, you're ready to go, except you're going to need to pay for the software that you put in, but it gets installed, with no trouble. Then you can license it from the respective manufacturers. And what this does is it gives you a beautiful management console for the stuff in your broadcast facility, in your virtual rack. And you can get 2 virtual racks, one to back up the other as a hot swap backup. They check each other, every couple of seconds or so. And it makes for a very professional operation. And guess what? You don't have to be an IT expert or a Linux expert to make this work. There's demos. You can see them videos there. You can click on. This is their website from Broadcast Bionics. You go to bionics.co.uk and look for Virtual Rack. We have a link in the show notes, and you can click and watch these videos from Dan McQuillan showing off Virtual Rack. This is an absolute wonder. We showed this to the engineers at Telos Alliance who have come up with this containerized software, and they said, wow, that's pretty cool. So check it out from Broadcast Bionics and the mind of Dan McQuillan and his development staff there at Broadcast Bionics. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Broadcast Bionics, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Remember, the links are in the show notes for today's show, or just go to bionics.co.uk. All right. We're here with Chris Tarr. He's joined us, and also joining us, Clay Walker. And Clay, I want you to, if you don't mind, just jump right ahead into this slide and the things
Sure.
About standardization based on content.
Yeah. And again, the mantra we were saying is content creation has to be frictionless, and meaning this is kind of what we operate under now. Studios are no longer station centric. So when we're building new facilities, they're content centric. So you don't have, ASPF, that's their studio, and it's a room that, even if it's automated for 5 hours a day and 2 channels are potted up on the console burning electrons, nope, that's a room that could be doing other things in addition to being a control room. It has to be content centric. Content happens everywhere. So how do our facilities support our talent anywhere at any time, at any moment? Talk about Dallas. We're in the middle of a really cool Dallas build. We're building them a new facility and should be in there any minute. Our partners at KRLD, one of the questions that the brand manager asked me yesterday was, hey, we want to upgrade our ability to, when we're out on the street, to do live shots. And we want, I'm like, well, great. I've got a solution. It's being built in your new facility now. Content has to live beyond the linear broadcast. So podcasts, like we're doing right now, video podcast, video live streaming, all that stuff has to happen too, but the tech layer's got to be transparent. Kirk, you made a point in our TAB presentation about jocks want windows, jocks want, was it cushions? They're not ever really talking about the buttons.
Yeah.
Cushions
Yeah,
and
that's
daylight.
right.
That's how this goes. Our mission is building a facility that looks like this, and we're really rocking. So we got the standard, we've got a mission, and it really turned into the multi-platform studios that we're designing today. And Suncast, I've got a cool little illustration here of what we've implemented, really starting in Portland. We did Portland, Sacramento, San Francisco, just finished Phoenix a couple of weeks ago with the help of the Radio DNA team. Underway in Dallas, and we have a few more to come in the new year. But they are all very well laid out the same way with the same structure. You have wide orbit automation that has the ability to go to any market at any time. So we have a lot of multi-market voice track talent, or may need to do live stuff for another market. They have that ability with the right credentials to get anywhere. We do automated camera control based on audio input using some fun with Pathfinder and vMix, which is what this, Kirk, I believe this show is powered by. Great video production tool. And we do some AI text-to-speech editing and stuff. So it's easy for the content creator to drag and drop, go into the tool and say, that's where this thing happened, clip it, drop it into your social media tools. It's a flexible AOIP console. We have standardized even down to the content type of what kind of Quasar console you receive. If you're a music station, you get a 12 fader Quasar. If you're a spoken word station, you get a 16 fader Quasar. Unless you're in a major market and need a giant frame, we're hard pressed to believe that you need more than 12 on a music station. Any source, anytime, any channel, anywhere, your profile follows you in the building. It's all powered by Livewire. No physical audio even comes through the room. So when you have a live morning show and then it kicks over to tracks in middays or whatever, the room's dead. So now it's a place to do production. It's a place to do podcasts, interviews, not just for your market, but for anywhere else in the company. And what's so nice about this standard, and this is the business guy in me coming out, is now we're able to scale this up and say, I'm going to build 5 markets next year. This is how many I know I'm going to need of all of the parts. And now I could go and say, Telos, we're going to need you to build these things at this time frame, and I need X amount of them. So ramp up production, go ahead and start acquiring fader, fader modules and MTS modules, start staffing up. And I know that most of the manufacturers really appreciate having lead time, and then they're also able to competitively bid out and operate. So, having a standard is way more than just the content part. There's the business part of it there as well. That was really the beginning of standard. All right, now we've built a physical studio. What can we do to bring this up into a place where maybe we want to start lifting and shifting? And instead of building a market with 24 racks, what happens if I build it with 5? Or my new personal challenge, what if I built that market with 1? Like, what if you did 1 rack? How much of the stuff that we have today could be put up in the cloud? And boy, it's amazing when you start looking at those same elements that in that studio is this virtual multi-platform studio we designed using your employer's products. We have an Altus mixer. This is and if y'all haven't tried this out, it's really worth a look, right? This is a HTML5 browser-based. The under the belly looks like a standard Quasar engine. It looks like a Fusion backend engine. All of that stuff that we're familiar with. It could live in your market, but with the right firewall port openings and all of that stuff, you could log into this anywhere with the right credentials. You could contribute through the laptop or through your iPhone. For our friends at KRLD, they could get on the air immediately through WebRTC, and we could run in concert with wide orbit automation for radio. What's really dope about this is this was a wonder what would happen if we had to do this, and then we actually had to do this. Jeff McGinley is we all know Jeff very well. He was working for us at the time, and look, we were homeless in Portland. We were building them a new facility and that project, because of COVID, was running behind. We had nowhere to go. So while Altus was in beta, Jeff leveraged his relationships with Telos and moved everything to the transmitter site and said, hey, what happens if we just run the whole thing there on touchscreens? The talent had no option at that point. They said either that or I'm not going to be able to do a live morning show. And what I love, I was just on Facebook a week ago. Nick and Kristen, host of the Married Morning Show on 99.5 The Wolf, did a live video around their home studio. They do their morning show from home every day on Altus. I would argue that it's probably still the beta version because it runs so well. And Kirk, I know you've talked about this with the stations you own too. This is a shift from the physical touching faders to a container on a bare metal server. But what happens if you throw that up in AWS?
Right.
That's
or
one
the transmitter
less
site,
thing
as,
to have to deal with.
as Jeff did, or that we did in Oxford, Mississippi, because we weren't homeless in Oxford, but we have a situation where we cannot put up an STL antenna, not even a little one. So we have internet at the studio, internet at the transmitter site, 2 different internet companies. And so we didn't want to depend on that for our 24/7 STL. So we just put the automation and the mixing and the phone system and everything at the transmitter site. And every morning, our jock sits in a room with 4 beautiful touchscreens and 3 mics and 3 headphones, and it's just a great environment. And he does this, what is essentially a 4.5-hour remote every morning, but nobody knows it's a remote because it looks like he has guests in the studio every single day. And the guests think they're at a radio station, right? Yeah,
that's right. And, again, going back to the business part of it for a minute, as a smaller operator, maybe that rent and that small town you operate in is really high. And it's really tough to say that stuff because I love going to radio stations. I love sitting in a building with colleagues, but I have a soft spot. I grew up in West Virginia and worked for really small operators who were really struggling to keep things on the air. Sometimes that to quote Dave Ramsey, maybe that building isn't a blessing. It's not a blessing to you. Maybe you need to find a way to get some efficiencies. This gets you here because now you're able to lift. And even if it's not bare metal, maybe it is AWS, maybe it is Google Cloud, where all these containers could operate. And maybe the only thing you do is drop the final product down to your transmitter site. And boy, there's a lot of cool up and coming groups that are trying to pull this off, be it Super Hi-Fi, be it Radio Cloud, who I think RCS has a product now that'll allow you to go straight to transmitter. So if you were in that situation where you really needed to have the flexibility, you can, and it works in such a way that you gain all this additional efficiencies. It's pretty interesting.
Chris, you guys, are you still with us, Chris?
I am, yes.
Oh, good. Okay, you guys, Chris, if I understand you right, and I haven't taken a tour through it yet, I'd love to see a tour one time. You guys have turned one of your former station facilities into a data center, and it's not AWS, but still you do. That's kind of like your little private cloud there. Do you do things there that are applicable to what we're talking about here today?
Oh, absolutely. We originate a lot of our programming from that building outside of anything that we do live, and the cost of real estate became very important to us during COVID. And one of the things we did is everybody started working from home as a distributed workforce, and we just never went back. Everybody's so much more efficient and happy with this setup that we just kind of stayed that way. So all of a sudden, we had a lot of office space and studio space that we didn't need. We still have offices. We still have people that like to be in offices, but there's a lot of places where we just really no longer need it. And because of that, all of our delivery is over fiber. And we built this data center with that in mind. I can feed a bunch of our radio stations from there. And one of the benefits of that is, just like certainly not the same scale as Odyssey, but we have stations all over the state, 20 some signals. And, it's not easy if there's a failure, and we're not cloud based. So it's not easy when there's a problem in La Crosse for me to get there from Milwaukee. That's a 2.5-hour drive. So by having some of this stuff centralized, that makes management a lot easier. But then you do get into the situation of, well, then how do you get live? Oh, with the combination of Axia and things like zip streams and things like that, we can do that. And it's very easy to switch whatever station we want to put on whatever frequency. We can do that. We talked about that a few weeks ago when I had a station in Toma, a classic country station. Their studio went down. And I have a similarly formatted station down near Madison, and I was able to quickly route that audio to the translator or the station rather in Toma, and we just kind of had some fun with it, put some promos on the air and that sort of thing. But it came in clutch, really, and to be able to switch that is so easy. Just another example is today when we're getting ready for high school sports. I wanted to go through and test everything, and invariably somebody had the wrong station in their headphones or whatever, and I was able to reset the mix minus, but we're not to the cloud yet. We're dabbling in it. What we do is we have backup machines at each of the transmitter sites, and those are actually connected to things like Max Connect and stuff like that. And we mirror the audio between the two machines, and that way, if we do lose something, from one of the studios or from the data center or whatever, those machines take over. And if the fiber is completely down, we can get in through the Max Connect and just transfer audio files that way. As for studios, this is where that cost ratio and that friction reduction really comes into play. When we built the facility in La Crosse, again, a great example of I didn't worry about STL shots. I didn't worry about anything. I could just worry about building a facility. We have several stations in that market, and the question was, well, should we put in a bunch of voice tracking studios and several on-air studios and one for each of the stations? And we started discussing it, and it didn't make a lot of sense. We didn't really need a huge amount of consoles. We have an element with the soft surface so we can control it from anywhere. But the studios, the voice tracking and production studios are literally just computers with AXI drivers on them, so that if we need to use those studios for something, we can do that. But what we did is we built out one main studio for everybody, built out fully in Axia, and that can be fed to any of the stations in that market, or in any other market, really. But what's great is the morning guy in La Crosse said that with Axia and the way that everything is set up, he doesn't think about it. He can be, as he put it in a recent tour, I can worry about being funny instead of worrying about how the controls work. And that's the goal. Now I can't fix him being funny, but I can certainly, get him set up with the right equipment to get it done. So in a situation, like Odyssey, they do it for sure because of the scale. In my situation, I mean, obviously there's some scale there, but there's also the fact that we're a small distributed workforce. So we need to have those efficiencies. And those were things we didn't have when I first started. That was one of the reasons I got this job, was we needed to standardize on these things. And it's been great for everybody, because now you walk into any building, you know what automation's running, you know what consoles we're using. I even have IP addressing schemes that match. So you can go into any of our markets anywhere and know how things work. So
and let the best talent win
for that.
Yeah, let the best talent win on things. So, where you said distributed workforce, right? We have wonderful talent in multiple markets that you go, gosh, if Brew in LA could do a morning show with somebody on the East Coast, boy, it'd be great. But hey, I don't think Brew wants to leave LA, right? Y'all need to follow Brew. He's the CEO of Radio TikTok. This guy's got millions of followers. He's incredible and a great on-air jock, right? But what if we could take Brew and this person on the East Coast together and put them virtually with a tool like Altus, or there's a variety of other solutions there. Now we're able to say always the best talent on our radio stations at all times. And now you're not limited to geography. Like I live in Central North Carolina. I love it. My family's here, and our networks are here. Our people networks are here, right? I can, because of virtualization and because of a great network backbone and all these things that we built during COVID, I could really impact 40 plus markets every day from here. Let the best talent win. Don't worry about geography. So now we're flatlining this stuff. These things that were always blockers are going, man, I wish I could get that person to come do something for us. They're wonderful. Now we've got the tech to pull that off. So Chris, to your point, there is a real estate implication on day one. Like you were talking about STL shots, if you said, I don't have to worry about getting a piece of real estate in town that I could see Baraboo, Wisconsin, it's a WOLX transmitter site. I believe that's in Baraboo.
Well, I'm actually still the site caretaker for that site.
Yeah, that the wallpaper there, boy, that's a good look. That's another story, inside joke about. About
that could be an entire hour of just that site.
That's it.
Really.
But if you didn't have to have a clear shot there, and I didn't have to have a look at SES 11 to pick off satellite stuff, and then I didn't have to add supplemental air conditioning for the TOC, what opportunities do I have now for finding better real estate that matches our business need? So now I could go into a facility that probably is in a nicer part of town that isn't close, within 20 miles of the shot, that I don't have to, I can still get a 950 link to, now we're really able to put a better look forward for our business too. And our clients are proud to come into our facilities because we're not at the mini mall, because that was the only place we could find that had the rent right that would let us put up a STL tower in the backyard. It just keeps adding up. And then also there's the CapEx versus OpEx thing. Like, I see this, Kirk, coming into a managed service plan, right? Of calling up my favorite Telos dealer and going, I think I want to do X amount of radio stations in the cloud. I don't want to deal with the orchestration. I don't want to deal with the management of it. Would you consider, let me pay you monthly as a managed service? That takes the scary away from going, I'm going to have to make a $500,000 investment in architecture and infrastructure in a market or whatever that is, and try to take tax write-offs to get the money back or get ROI. It all makes so much sense to start walking your way in gradually into this.
Well, it's interesting you brought up Baraboo, because I've got 2 signals now on the tower, and I don't have any studios for them. I mean, they're just fed by fiber into that room. I actually have a single box that has the T1, or not the T1. Boy, dating me. The IP link input on it and the built-in processing. So that's actually fed from the data center, those 2 signals. So, there's no STL shot. The studio is a good maybe 90 miles away.
That's awesome.
So
and
you're right.
In your case, any studio could feed those stations. So if I'm
right,
and this is kind of the point I made at TAB, Kirk, is that this was not a major market, large scale company thing on only that.
Right.
Chris, you're doing this on your data center, which might as well be your private cloud, and delivering content even in Madison and all of
well,
you're not New York, but you're doing the same thing, I guess, is the point I'm making.
Yeah, and here's another great example of how these things can work when you do it. That same one of those stations in Baraboo, we do local sports on it, and the situation is that the place where it's a little interesting. The closest studio for us is Reedsburg, which is down the road a little bit. But that is actually, it's their guys that do those games, and to get them to use the Comrex access boxes to like different locations is a little bit confusing to them. So they actually connect to Reedsburg, and then the audio from the Comrex comes down a zip 1 to the Axia network in the Fort Atkinson data center, and then sent by fiber with the automation up to Baraboo. So it actually makes this huge round trip. It's completely seamless, and it makes life a whole lot easier because there's just one connection they need to remember for the Comrex, and they just connect, and I can send it wherever it needs to go, whatever station anywhere in the state it can go, using, because with Axia, I just got to say, okay, zip 1, this is the feed you're taking, and this is where it's going, and you're done.
Guys, we got a break here, and coming up after the break, we're going to have call letters and examples. Clay's got a couple of slides with station logos, call letters, and as I like to say, we've got drums and call letters coming up next. This week in Radio Tech with Chris Tarr here, and Clay Walker is our guest. We're talking about virtual mixing in the cloud, and Clay's now right after the break here has got some examples of stations that are doing this or moving in that direction. So Clay will have that coming up shortly. Our show is brought to you in part by Angry Audio. And I asked Clay, I said, what Angry Audio products, if any, are you using right now? He says, we love these guest gizmos. We use them. And I said, well, awesome. And normally when Chris is here, we talk about mic processing, but I know Chris is probably not. Chris, you're not on your mic processor today, are you?
No, see, it's an interesting situation. My wife's starting to work from home, and right now her desk is right next to mine. So I'm letting her
Well,
work. I'm up here. Then when the kid goes off to college, then we're gonna move her into there, and we'll be
well,
better. But
and
temporary
this show has
situation.
got to be super annoying to her. So I'm glad you're not bothering her
Yeah,
with it.
that's right. I'm upstairs in the living room.
I'm gonna put Clay in the hot seat for a second. Clay, I'll set you up with an easy one here. We'll tee it off to you, and that is, Clay, tell me what you like so much about the Angry Audio Guest Gizmo.
I'm a big fan of the fact I believe this is the same as the headphone amp, right? This is it. This is really.
I'm sorry, I said
gizmo.
Guest Gizmo. I meant to say headphone
the
gizmo.
Gizmo's kind of got the same guts on it. That's our standard. I talk about standardization all the time, and we want to go let the best person win. This is it. What I like about it is low power consumption. You could run it over PoE, and you could jump daisy chain them around a studio.
Mhm.
They're built like a tank. There's no sharp edges. I have one that isn't an Angry Audio one right here to my right hand. It does not have rounded edges, and I oftentimes catch my knee on it. Not a fun time. Maybe one day I will have enough podcasts under me, Kirk, that I could get a headphone gizmo of my own. And also,
in fact,
a volume knob's nice too.
Chris will back me up. Chris, I'm going to wager that Clay has never snagged his pantyhose on a headphone gizmo.
No, I would imagine not. Now I've snagged my
No.
pantyhose and a lot of different versions of this, the older stuff, but never one of these.
Okay.
Good Lord, you guys are nuts. Please don't fast forward through this part of the podcast, people.
The head.
Now,
what I do,
the knob.
Yeah, go ahead.
Having a headphone, having a knob on the amp is important because if you're on the other side of the console and you're the morning show talent, you don't have to go turn my headphones down or turn them up. And you have that ability here too. They're built like they're built like a brick, house, and the price is right too. If you're building a whole bunch of these, you got to have a bunch of these in your studios.
Now, Chris, you may have a different policy. I use the headphone gizmo, what we've been looking at on screen there. I use that one for the operator position. And then I use the guest gizmo, the one that mounts on top of the cabinet that has a mute button on it. So a guest can cough or, whatever they need to do. And it has a headphone volume control on it too. And it's the one that you drill a round hole, but it's a square looking box and it just covers up the round hole beautifully. That's the guest gizmo.
See, now, when I built the WSSP studios, all we had back then was the Axia controller with the on-off buttons and the headphones. But I've been getting these headphone gizmos for our studios as we install Axia and we build new facilities because they drop right in, and those are great, especially if you're doing talk shows. Now, in our case, we don't have any real major talk shows, so we just have headphone gizmos. And then the operator turns the mics on and off because we don't really need to have cough buttons or anything like that. But they're built so well.
Hey, these are available from Angry Audio or your favorite broadcast equipment dealer. AngryAudio.com is the website. And hey, our other sponsor that we talk about in this break, and I believe Clay has something fantastic to say about their newest product. It's Max Connect. And these guys are absolutely brilliant. They came up with that whole idea of the prioritized cellular LTE data so that you can have 60,000 people in a stadium and your remote still gets through, and that works. But they also have this new multi-receiver. You can buy it in chunks of 4 tuners up to 16. And Clay, I think you said you're a big fan of this new box.
I like this. So, part of our standardization and centralization in some cases is our network operations center. I'm very, very proud to work with some very smart people that designed a 3 time zone NOC. These are the guys who, after 7 o'clock, you want to go home and have dinner with your family. And the program director was dumb and forgot to load a log for the next day and your station falls off the air. These people know within an instant, because we have tuners in every market, that tattletale up to the NOC. And tattletale's a bad way of putting it. But, before we were using a competitor's product that you had to have 1/3 of a rack per signal to monitor in the market.
Mhm.
With this, I can monitor way, way, way more and reduce the amount of rack spaces that I'm taking up. That's kind of the mantra right now, is how low can you go? How small of a rack can we actually put in a facility? By having this in a high density way, I could, have all the alarming we need and the monitoring we need. But what's really also cool is that with this IceCast thing that Suncast is showing, within an instant, you could click and listen to multiple stations at the same time. Where the previous iteration we were using is you kind of had a tuner and you had to dial around to see what was going on. National Weather Service is in there too. So maybe you wanted to go direct to transmitter and needed to move your EAS out there. You could monitor your signals. You could put EAS out at the transmitter site because you're monitoring NWS. All of that, all in one rack unit, is pretty dope.
It is cool. It is cool, and it's for the folks at Max Connect who have put this thing together. I gotta introduce this to my business partner Larry Fuss, because Larry typically listens to at least three different Alexas at the same time in his office, listening to, or when he's at the apartment in Mississippi or in Hawaii, he's got three radios going all the time. Gosh, so I need this one box. You can listen to everything at the same time. Max Connect and Max Connect Wireless. Go to Max Connect. I know it's funny, MAXXKONNECT.com, and check out this new product from Max Connect, the Max Connect RMT 416. It's available in lots of different iterations, depending on how many tuners that you need. All right. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech. We've just got a few minutes to go. Clay, we're going to have to buzz through some of these call signs here pretty quickly, but you've got some slides that show radio station logos.
Let's talk cloud, because this is, look, we could go cloud to transmitter. And again, thanks to a really interesting partner, Super Hi-Fi. If you guys haven't checked them out, they're pretty neat. We went on a wild journey and said, what happens if we move some stations to the cloud? We started with some HD2s and 3s. Kick FM in Houston. That's KALT HD3, Star 102.5 in Buffalo. These are HD subchannels. But then we said, let's put a full station, fully produced in the cloud with Super Hi-Fi, and drop it down in Denver. Front Range Country 103.1 in Denver has been since, middle of last year, 100% fully automated, scheduled, produced, voice track, the whole thing, not with AI jocks, but all of that delivered directly into the audio processor at the transmitter site. And it's actually in action, and it's pretty cool. And other partners, we're experimenting and seeing what can we do? What can we do to orchestrate? Because, if we're not, and again, I'll put the business guy hat on here for a second. If we're not spending all this money on giant TOCs, we could reinvest in talent. We could reinvest in sales experts to go out and try to connect with local businesses and make really big things happen. If all we're talking about is sending music to the transmitter site.
Okay, good deal. And you've got some of these working right now. And you said you started on some HD2s and 3s, but now you have some real, by golly,
the
first
Denver
choice
station
FMs.
is it's an HD2 driven to a translator. It's a big super translator that looks like a Class A when you look at the coverage map in Denver. But a real station with real billing that does real stuff. It was a really cool experimental station to put on and to see what we could do. In what I believe is I feel like I've got one of the coolest jobs in radio right now, because we experiment a lot and we ask these questions like, what happens if? Right now I'm asking, what happens if I deliver the final MPX to the cloud, but up in the cloud, it's everything that we would normally have in a typical facility. I want wide orbit automation. I want an Altus console. I want my VX phone system. Then I want to hand it off and I want to stream to all of our audience on the Odyssey app. I also want to drop the final product to the transmitter site. But here's where it gets really crazy. And Chris, I think this is what you touched on a second ago. I want it to be fault tolerant. I want to pull that network connection out of the back, and I want to still be on the air. And I know what you guys are saying. You're nuts. There's no possible way you can pull that off. But perhaps there is. And if it happens to be failing over to a device at the transmitter site, or maybe the device at the transmitter site is always running until you do something live and it merges over. These are the things we're poking around at and go, what happens if? Because the business need, I think, is there and would be supportive of it. And I think our talent, more than ever, are really supportive of the frictionless content creation studio and working in the cloud. They're already doing this in Instagram and TikTok today. Why can't it be like that with radio?
one of the things, and Chris, I bet you have a comment about this, that we have to be careful about is, in so many areas, engineers, we are geared to think of backup means. We're geared to think, okay, if the transmitter dies, what do we do? Oh, guess what? We have this N+1 FM transmitter over at this site. It's a couple miles away, broadband antenna. I can put on any frequency and I can send any of our station's audio to it. We have a backup plan. Or maybe if you have a backup transmitter, I mean, I've had many transmitter sites that had a whole transmitter just sitting there waiting to be the backup. Or maybe I've got, some sites got a combined big honking 40 kilowatt FM transmitters, 220s combined together. Well, if one of them fails, guess what? You've still got the other one. You can do maintenance on one and be on the air with the other. There's lots of situations like that. And today's modern solid state transmitters, lots of times you can, be working on a couple of modules and still have the thing on the air, plus have a backup somewhere. Okay. So the point is, engineers, think about backups. Do you have a backup way to get audio? I mean, sure, you got your automation system, but you've probably got some, a couple hours of automation or format on a computer somewhere or on a thumb drive. You've got means of doing it. I hear so many engineers think, well, what if the internet goes down? Then I'm off fire. Well, is there more than one way to get internet? I think so.
When you pointed it out, Kirk, this is it.
Yeah.
It starts with the backbone. And I think I buried the lead. You have to have double or triple redundancy. You need an SD-WAN solution. You need something that gives you survivability.
Yeah, Chris.
Well, I think too, it requires a different way to think about backups, because you're right. As engineers, we think about backing up the transmitter. But these things are all new. And I was going to use this as an example with the Max Connect ad. I posted this on Facebook the other day. I had a translator site, again, a big, same kind of thing as he's talking about in Denver, big coverage, and it's fed. The only internet I could get out there was through a wireless internet provider. And it actually is, I know the guy personally, he's helped us out. He keeps a good eye on things, but, and in 4 or 5 years, we've never had an outage until this past weekend when there was these huge storms. And it knocked out almost their entire statewide network. And it was going to be a couple of days of not having that network. So Max Connect, bring it over there, plug it in, and we're back on the air because of IP delivery. I mean, it doesn't matter what the format, how you're getting the internet, as long as you are. And then we've got situations like we have one of our big signals in Madison. And, I've got, my primary is IP delivery. I do have an STL backup, and I've got an on-site automation system that's synchronized with the home, with the one at the server room or the TOC, and those synchronize. So literally, if any of these connections drop, it seamlessly goes to the automation system at the transmitter site. Another example that I have is in La Crosse, same kind of thing where I've got some multiple ways to get audio there. But we were kind of asking, well, what happens if we just can't get audio delivery there? Well, I've got a Max Connect plugged directly into an automation system at the transmitter site, and I have a file copy that just synchronizes the studio Simian and the one at the transmitter site. So again, if everything fails, it seamlessly transfers. But you've got to think of those things. And it's hard when your entire life has been spent having backup studios and backup transmitters. This is a whole new ballgame.
Guys, we got to take our last break. And when we come back, it'll be time for a tip of the week. And Clay, I kind of like your last slide about, hey, this isn't just for big operators, but your tip can be about anything. Our show is brought to you in part by the friends at Vox Pro. This is the tool that so many really big talent, really good talent that just can get so much done, love to use in their studio. So let's hear about Vox Pro. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's Vox Pro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of Vox Pro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used Vox Pro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why Vox Pro? because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in Vox Pro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
Call 5, ready for that secret sound.
Boom. All of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit.
You are tackling secret sound caller 9. I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about Vox Pro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. Vox Pro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about Vox Pro, and you will be glad you did.
And actually, if you want to get a great price on Vox Pro, call Broadcasters General Store. They're a dealer for Vox Pro. And hey, I just met up with the BGS people last week at the TAB show near Austin, Texas. And what wonderful people, good friends, just good friends in life, good friends in business. And the website is bgs.cc, or call them at 352-622-7700 for Broadcasters General Store. All right, let's see what we have time to do here. We're almost out of time. Clay, tip of the week.
I'm going to give you the theoretical tip because I didn't bring my greenie with me today. It's have an open mind and be curious, because the way we've always done it doesn't get us any further than where we already have been. So when we say things that kind of make us uncomfortable, to go, I'm going to move that to the cloud, or I'm going to move that to a container. The best tip today is just be curious. There's a new iOS update that's that iOS 26, I think it is, that does so many different things to this little rectangle that we carry around all the time, and we have no problem doing it. We get nervous on the fear of the unknown, so let's be curious and try new things together. That's the best tip I can give anybody if you're starting out or been in this for 50 years, and just see what tech is out there to make our days so much better.
That's great advice. And Chris Tarr, curiosity has not killed you yet. Yeah.
No,
thought about,
in fact,
about that?
No, I have. Unfortunately, I've been okay. But, again, credit to Odyssey and the minds there. I know early on when it was Intercom, I was encouraged to come up with new ways to do things. And I still remember calls from John Kennedy, hey, I need you to put together something to do this. And that was a lot of fun. It's obviously on a much bigger scale now with Odyssey. But, Clay hit something on the head. And I used to have this hanging in my office when I had an office at Intercom. And it's the Grace Hopper quote, "We've always done it this way." The most dangerous phrase in the language is "we've always done it this way." And I firmly believe that. So, that's something that, is really important to remember, because you can get trapped in that and things can go sideways. As for my legitimate tip of the week, we talked about this, again, a Facebook thing about my air conditioner dying. And I found this, and it's actually the same day I found this, somebody else recommended it to me, and I'm going to keep a couple of them in the Jeep for the transfer sites we have with air conditioning. And that is a universal, let me get it over here, a universal start capacitor. And basically, it's just one big capacitor with different taps. So you can select the capacitance that you need. Yeah. And you can kind of see here on the top, that's what it looks like.
Oh, look at that. It's colorful. Okay.
Yeah, and it's got jumpers. So you just basically, tie together the ones you want to get the capacitance you want. But it's universal. And it's a pretty common failure with AC units. And they all kind of seem to have different valued capacitors and things. So if you have one of those, you're covered for all of your sites.
That's a great idea. That's fantastic. Thanks, Chris. Would you just Google what universal motor run capacitor or something?
Well, these guys, Amrad is who makes these, and they're a company out of Florida. And they
Okay.
come with a 5-year warranty. They're very well built. They're a lot more expensive than typical capacitors that you're going to get from overseas or whatever. But these are made in Florida. They're like I think I got this on sale from Amazon for like $60.
Versus,
okay.
Chris,
So, but
this is like when it's in the middle of July in North Carolina and the air conditioner goes kaputs at the house. That's a $700 HVAC guy visit, right? Would
right,
you
yeah,
recommend?
exactly.
I mean, again, well, you wouldn't want to trust me around high voltage, but if somebody would you recommend that too? Not just at your transmitter
Well,
site?
oh, absolutely. Well, again, true story. I only learned how to do this the other day. I, know nothing about air conditioning. And I put that out on Facebook, and a couple of people said, this is so easy to do, and they charge you an arm and a leg for it. It's a, $50 capacitor and 10 minutes worth of work for something that they'll charge you $600 for. So I just took the dive and went, again, we're talking about trying new things. I'm just like, what do I got to lose other than maybe a hand or something? But it worked.
You only do it
I've
once,
our own air
Chris.
conditioner.
We've
Yeah,
got to
right.
wrap it up because
Yeah.
we got a hard out with our producer Suncast. He's essential to the show. Clay, thank you for being with us, and Chris, thank you for being with us. I don't have time for any more than that. We'll see you both guys later, and I'll send you the links to the show. Suncast, thank you so much for producing today's episode of This Week in Radio Tech, and I hope that you will be back with us next week for another exciting show. I'm Kirk Harnack on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye bye.